Welcome everyone to this week's Founder Chat. I am Melanie Ewan. I'm one of the co-founders and managing partners at Volition, where we build connections and knowledge around global startup ecosystems. So I'm really excited to be here today with Alexandria Yalj, who is the founder of BeachNow. I know that we met back in 2019 in Seattle when you were part of I think you were part of our first ever women's pitch event down in Seattle, and since then have seen you here and there, but haven't had a really good catch up, I don't think, at least not one-on-one. We may never have had ever like a nice one-on-one catch up before. So I'm really excited to dig in, learn more about the origin stories of BeachNow and also what you've been up to, particularly in the last year or so, and what is the vision for the future. We have some comments coming in about how you're so sweet and efficient, which is amazing, and that this is someone, I guess, who booked you.
Joining us. Yay.
Awesome. For Beach Day. Fantastic. All right. Welcome, welcome. That's exciting. So without further ado, essentially, for those who haven't been to one of these chats before, we kind of have a casual interview style conversation, but please do jump in, say hello, ask questions, whether you're joining us live now or you're joining us on IGTV or YouTube later. Please do feel free to ask any questions that you have. And otherwise, I'm going to pass it over to you, Alexandria, and I'd love to know a little bit more about who you are, a little bit more about BeachNow. And I know you talked about how BeachNow is a personal beach concierge and makes it easier for people to enjoy the beach. So tell us a little bit more about that, and then we'll dig into the origin stories.
Yeah, well, okay. I'll take it a little further back. Some people might not know, but I actually have an MFA in choreography. I was a professional dancer and turned educator after I graduated from Cal Arts. And I've always been in administration, production, and what I came to learn as being a logistics coordinator, master extraordinaire, working in the nonprofit sector for a long time as well. So knowing how to be scrappy, how to make a budget, how to plan, how to propose, how to nurture relationships, right? And that's what brought me out to California. And I was hustling and bustling, trying to dance, perform, teach, run an organization. And we were seeing a huge change in the Los Angeles area, a push towards a tech community coming in along the seaside, and what some had as Silicon Beach. And as an artist, as an educator, and thankfully for my education in my master's program, I really felt I was empowered to utilize different technological tools. And I learned how to HTML code. I learned how to edit on Final Cut. And I think that was really important in my journey, is understanding the technical tools to be able to empower yourself, nurture your voice as well as your audience. And with that shift, that demographic shift here along the coast city in Los Angeles, we were experiencing intense gentrification. The rents were up, and I felt like I couldn't take any more jobs on than I already had. And it was getting really difficult. And one summer, a couple of my other girlfriends who were single, living alone, which was very rare here, especially in Venice Beach, to be able, woman living alone and be able to pay rent, right? We kind of had this idea of just maybe we would sacrifice living on our own to live together in a house, because we were seeing the rental industry blow up and nothing being available or affordable. So that summer, we decided if it was going to be our last summer living walking distance from the beach, we needed to go to the beach every day to enjoy it.
Right.
So while we were out on the beach, I lived the closest, or two of my friends, we lived the closest, and everyone would kind of use my restroom in my apartment, because it was just a short 6 to 7 minute walk across the beach. The beaches here in LA are kind of broad and wide. Yeah. And I just tell everyone, I'll handle everything. Because I've been to Burning Man, I go to Coachella, I like to keep
Right.
down to bring the things and host. And
Yeah.
bring yourselves. And, you know, whenever someone had to use the restroom, they would also be in charge of getting more food or filling up the cooler, the thermos. And when no one else had to use the restroom or make the trip back to the apartment, I kind of just made a joke one day and was like, why isn't there an app for this? It was like, I just want a drink, maybe a towel, someone to bring it to me. There's all this. Why isn't there an app for this? And then I thought to myself, well, why isn't there an app for this? So, and I kind of was feeling like the edging of technology was really starting to change the way we lived. We started,
Right.
especially here in Los Angeles, Lyft and Uber take off. You know, then we had Bird scooters take off, and it was just really changing the way in which we commodify things, attain things, speak to people, and just move through space. So I took a chance. I did the research. I wrote a business plan, and I jumped full into it, trying to make this concept work. And the idea was you could book an entire experience on demand and just show up to the beach and have everything provided for you. And at first it was proof of concept, and then it was finding the right market fit and price. And now we are just trying to keep up with demand and scale out gracefully.
That's incredible. So what was the timeline on this again? Can you walk me through when was like that conception, and how long did it take to get that proof of concept and start finding like the right places and people and where you want to expand to?
So in the fall, like October of 2014, I started doing the market research, and I literally spent like it's like so typical, my last $100 on like a business model template that I got on.
Right.
And that was October of 2014 when I printed out the first draft of my business model. And then in April of 2015, I did a friends and family round on GoFundMe.
Right.
I raised $5,000, and that gave me a huge boost. It gave me huge confidence with my friends and family putting money to go forward. And with minuscule little capital, developed and published an app to the Google Play and App Store. I built my website, and I bought 6 chairs and 3 umbrellas and a few other amenities, and basically built out one package. We started with one.
That's a lot to do with $5,000. I am super impressed.
Really strange. It's like you get this money, and then I had a really hard time spending it. Like,
right.
I felt like super cautious and
every dollar has to be strategic.
And you know, I was networking in Los Angeles trying to find developers, and everyone was so expensive, and I just happened to find a source where I could do it myself and just plugged along. And so that was 2015. I did my DBA, I did my friends and family, I published the app, and then in 2018, I raised $100,000 in a seed round, and I went from doing it from my apartment to buying a truck and actualizing the mobile fleet side of it, trying to really improve the concept of the operation. So I went from 6 chairs to 40 chairs and a bit. And
it's incredible.
Yeah. The rest is kind of history.
The rest is history.
And then in 2020, right, last year, in January and February, it was so exciting because we were getting bookings and deposits
Yeah.
for July, and I was so
Right.
excited. I was like, it's happening, the evolution, getting out there. And we were having sales when we never have sales, like January.
Right.
Weren't really going to the beach. And one of my biggest goals was, I feel like I had to change the culture around going to the beach. I feel like one of our uphill battles in culture, especially in Los Angeles, is with Hollywood and TV and television. The idea is we only go to the beach when it's bikini weather, right?
Mm,
Only interested in going to the beach when it's sun out, buns out, suntan.
right.
And I really wanted to demystify that kind of idea and trying to generate content where people are wearing sweaters on the beach. And the reality
Yeah.
of California, anyone who's moved here will tell you it's not as hot as you think it's going to be. Like, people think it's like Miami, but it's not. It's actually cooler, milder weather. And when it gets hot here, it's like September, October. So I felt
Right.
past, I was fighting this kind of cultural norms of like, Labor Day, summer's over, pumpkin spice lattes, let's go to the pumpkin picking patch, beach
Yeah.
over. So in January and February, we were getting all this momentum of people booking ahead for their bigger parties, and I was so, and then March came, and COVID came, and they closed the beach. Oh my God, sorry for the background noise. And we were devastated. We thought 2020 was going to be the year that we were going to explode and people were really going to value our service. And in the reality, it happened anyways. We just had a little brief pause. It went from being closed, and that was really hard, the unknown, the uncertainty behind it all. And then in June 15th, they opened the beaches up, and business went 0 to 100. And then it was a matter of trying to keep up and trying to maintain the quality of our service and trying to recruit while you're in it. It was really insane, but the payoff was people really understood the value of the service we provide. People were very happy to have an outlet to be outside, to gather, and to feel safe, because I really believe one of the safest places in this pandemic world is the beach. You have breeze blowing, plenty of space. We did tons of research. My best friend has a master's in public health. She helped me do a ton of research on the intubation rate of viruses at the beach, and it turns out there are no viruses can hang out on the beach. The water is a different story, but bacteria is like your biggest thing. So it's just crazy to think of all the things you're just providing a service, but then also all the things you have to consider in that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like you've been through so much and you've learned so much since 2014, and I'm curious. I mean, you came from this background that was not a startup tech kind of background, if I'm understanding correctly. And what was that like, that transition to starting up? And what would your advice be for anyone who might be starting up today? I know it's a very different landscape today, of course, but even though it wasn't that many years ago, but
so thrilled for that question and happy to speak to that. I think the artist community doesn't get enough credit. I think artists are entrepreneurs.
Have to be, of course.
And I feel a lot, and I could be biased in this, dancers in particular, actors in particular, kind of
branding
thought as like lower level, not as educated. But the reality is we have a tremendous level of soft skills, what like recruiters want to talk about, soft skills. I've always been in hospitality. I have worked since I was 14 years old. I worked in a diner when I was in high school. I've worked in high-end hotels. I've worked in high-end dining.
So
And
building relationships,
I would definitely,
communications, yeah.
I agree completely with Anthony Bourdain. I learned more in those settings and got a better education dealing with people in real time and their needs. And I would say the biggest hardship for me was, as a dancer and a choreographer and as a waitress, I can take in a lot of information and process it once orally. You can tell it to me and I can retain it and then process it. And that's a skill that I think with the advancement of technology, we're losing a lot of. And I think being in the tech world is being able to do the same thing, but on email. And that same kind of connection with people is a little more difficult. However, as a dancer, that background has lend itself to me in strengths of being nimble, being able to take criticism, and able to multitask. And I definitely accredit it to my education at Cal Arts, because I really think one of the things that the Walt Disney organization has always been about is putting the tools in the hands of artists that are at the edge of technology, because if you're not up to date with the tools that are available to you, you're going to get left behind. And I think if I never learned HTML code as a self-producing artist, I would have never ever had the courage to try to build an app on my own.
So if you were to be talking to anyone in our audience who might be interested in building their own app or starting their own tech company, what would some of your tips be for them?
You don't have to be a developer to develop an app. And you don't have to spend thousands of dollars to do it. I think in total I spent $300 to produce my app. I actually came across, 6 years ago, a company based out of Israel that basically, imagine like MailChimp, but for apps. You get a template, you can build out, and the scrappier, the better. I mean, I've had an MVP app. It's not all the bells and whistles. It's not native, but I developed an app that's drawing from my website on a URL. And the reason why I did that is because I couldn't hire a developer. I wasn't technically a developer myself, but I was confident in being able to update my website, and being able to have the app draw from a URL allows me to make updates to the content without having to go through the process of the Apple developer process, which can be really insane. A lot of people will say, don't give up. They're going to, throw it back to you and not publish it. It can be a rigorous process, but you can do it if you want to.
Right. Yeah. So I'm hearing draw on all your experiences and understand that entrepreneurship comes in many different shapes and sizes and from many different corners of your background as well. So there's incredible lessons to be learned in all of the different kinds of work that we do that could be applied in entrepreneurship. And I'm hearing even if you only have $300 or $5,000 from a friends and family round, you can do so much with that. By just kind of applying what you know and getting creative and scrappy and knowing that it's going to take time, because I think there's this conception that applications or that startups only sometimes take a year or two to get off the ground. And we're talking about that you starting this in 2014, and that progression from then also meant by the time 2020 came that you were in a position to be able to pause when you needed to. You did research, you did so many incredible things to better understand how to adapt to the concerns that were going on in the world. And you're talking about, thinking about how do we rebrand Time at the Beach as well. And it seems like you've taken time to really think through a lot of who your customer is and what their needs are, and the spaces that they're in. And I know that you also like to talk about the benefits of the beach. And this is, I'm assuming, another kind of topic that you touch on through BeachNow. I hope so anyways. And would love to hear anything that you have to share with us on that as well, and how BeachNow can kind of help us all spend more time in these kinds of spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch on your point of time. In the beginning, when I was building my business model and plan and doing market research, I felt like time was the enemy. I have reoccurring nightmares that like the nightmare was I woke up and my Instagram was blowing up on Uber, creating an easy way to get to the beach. And definitely like the driving force behind me, my friends could attest to it. Like I was a little bit obsessed with getting off the ground
first.
I just felt like if I didn't, someone else would, and I regret it.
Yeah.
Truly. And then time also becomes your enemy as well, because you're like, I need the time to learn what the customer wants. And a lot of time, I would say people just need to know we're here. And still 6 years later, we get customers who are like, I had no idea you existed. That takes time, and building a team takes time. But if anything, doing this endeavor has taught me what I needed is a lot of patience. And I think in this world when everything is so hustle bustle, I think we're borderlining on a dangerous culture in America, in the Western world, where it's okay to be hustling and grinding and all this stuff. And that's why I'm very passionate about people being able to go to the beach and take time out for themselves. The name BeachNow, being a radically, doing
active,
things radically in the moment. There's Ram Dass, if anyone's into spirituality, he has the phrase "be here now," about being present in the moment, because everything's going by really fast a lot of times, and we're just really going along with that current. But what people don't really realize is there are a huge amount of benefits of being at the beach. First of all, sunshine, vitamin D is great, especially in these times with fighting viruses and colds. Vitamin D is essential. When you're at the ocean is releasing ions, and these positive ions actually affect our body. It helps relax. Our hearts actually will slow down to the pace of the ocean. So it literally will lower your blood pressure. It'll slow down your breathing. It'll slow down your heart rate. Walking on the sand, grounding, having that connection, bare feet to the ground, is incredibly a great health benefit. Exfoliation of sand. Some people don't like sand, but sand is really great for us. This tactile feeling. People often generally sleep better after being at the beach because of those ions. And it's really interesting because I think if you look over from like the late 70s, remember Earth Day came about in the late 70s. And after Earth Day came about, we had a real huge movement on like conservation and being green. And we started seeing in our city development green spaces and the benefit of green space and how it has in our developing urban worlds. Well, and only in the last 3 to 5 years, while BeachNow was evolving, scientists started looking at the effects of blue space and starting to do, and a lot of this done in other countries, not so much here in the United States, but a lot in Europe and a lot in Australia. And they're realizing people who live by the beach live longer, have lower levels of stress, and actually have less cardiovascular disease and like all these different stress diseases. And they're really trying to get down, is it because we see the blue space? Is it because we're close enough? And it's just really interesting new research. I mean, the ocean is one of the most vast places. We've explored space more than
Yeah.
explored the ocean. Everyone's kind of drawn to the ocean a little bit in its magic.
Hmm. I just moved to Montreal from Vancouver, so I was just thinking, does it count if you're at a beach that's like on a large river or a lake?
Yeah, blue space is blue space.
Yeah.
The mountains, white caps with the blue sky. It can be a lake, it can be a river, but there's
Mm,
definitely proven benefits of being around blue space. And for
cool.
at the beach, there are so many life lessons that are happening that we don't even realize. Children playing in sand are having their first physics lessons.
I'd also love to know, what is your vision for BeachNow? What does, 5 years from now look like? Which seems like a billion years away, but what does that look like?
I'm really interested and committed of becoming a worldwide franchise. I want to build a brand and processes and operations behind that brand for other people like me who are passionate about either hosting events or having their own business and being at the beach and lending that expertise to everyone who might not be as comfortable coming to the beach, and being able to be their own business and sharing the knowledge that I've learned along the way, and being able to franchise it. I would love to scale out to the East Coast as well
Mm,
as nationally. And and my dream is to see how each different franchise has its own flavor
right.
in specific region or location.
Cool. So, what can we as your community do to help you with that dream? What would your ask here to be today?
My ask would be if there's anyone out there who is a developer who's in PR. Also, we are looking for a fractional CFO, and or a fractional CTO.
Hmm.
We're just constantly optimizing the brand name as well as our processes and systems in place. And we are looking for people to join our team. And of course, if there's anyone out there interested in more on the investment side, we're always looking for potential stakeholders to help expand.
Cool. Okay, so if anyone just heard that and wanted to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to reach out to you directly?
They can email me at alexandria@beachnow.me.
Great. And if they want to learn more about the business, they can head to www.beachnow.me. And you're also on Instagram. That's what you're on right now. So that's Beach Now SoCal. And on Facebook as well, which is Venice Beach Now. And am I missing any places that people can connect with you?
Nope, that's about it.
Those are
On LinkedIn, Alexandria Yalj.
on LinkedIn as well. Perfect. All right. Is there anything that we haven't talked about here today that you had wanted to touch on?
Well, I would just want to say thank you once again for having me. Going out to Seattle, I don't know if there are people here who are pitching, but I jumped on the opportunity to go to Seattle because I wanted to get out of my kind of like local area. I really wanted to see if my pitch would stick in a different demographic, and having that opportunity to do so with Violation was great. I've actually met people through your organization that I continue to work with now. I work with
Neat.
Chris Stairs, who's helped me build my pro-forma and has helped me understand the financial side of what I'm doing with my business. So I would just say you guys are doing a great thing and providing great resources for everyone. And I would encourage everyone to follow you guys and
Thank you.
with the help of a community.
Yeah, no, I love our community, and we do have fantastic advisors, and Chris has been with us since I think 2016, actually, since before we transitioned from, we used to be called Elevator and then transitioned into Volition, and Chris was with us before that transition, I believe. So he's one of the old guard at Volition, and he's amazing and has such a good grasp on helping people develop their pro forma and He was just helping someone recently, and they talked about how he like made them feel comfortable with finances and numbers. Like if you're walking in being like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to know. I don't know the language. I'm a little bit nervous about this meeting. He's great, right? At kind of like make you feel
Uh,
comfortable.
I think, again, talking with like the dancer background, people's thoughts is like, oh, they're dumb or they don't know. And that I kind of hold that a little bit where it's like, oh, numbers, like
Yeah.
I don't know. And he's been great to work with, and actually had a meeting with him last week.
All
Um,
right.
we have to move out of our warehouse space. We've grown out of it, and got to meet up with him and some of my advisors to look at the numbers, plug them in, and really understand what the reality is. Because right after I jump off this call with you, I have to go look at a new space and hopefully moving into a bigger space. So yeah,
Cool. Very exciting. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story here today, for sharing your lessons learned, a little bit about what you in particular love and want to share about the beach and its benefits. I'm really excited to see where BeachNow goes from here, and excited to follow you on that journey. And one last thing that we always like to ask, or I always like to ask, is what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
I just had a milestone. We had our first company party, and we were able to get our admin team and our field team to meet for the first time, and to see them have fun and talk about the work
Yeah.
and how they enjoy it. That brought me so much joy, because I feel like for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, sometimes it feels like a catch-22 when you're all on your own and you're scrappy and you're solo. And a lot of times when you're pitching, they say, we want to see the team behind you. And it feels like, you know, you want a bartending job, but you can't bartend unless you have bartending experience.
Mm-hmm.
Team, but you don't want to fund me unless I have a team. So
Yeah.
being around my team and then bringing their best to what we do and enjoy it has brought me so much joy recently. So yeah.
Cool. I love that. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, no, and thank you to everyone who's joining us as well. Whether you're here live or you're joining on IGTV or YouTube, really appreciate you being here to support Alexandria, to support and BeachNow, and to support Volition. Once again, make sure to go over to BeachNow SoCal on Instagram. Make sure to like and share and all the love for BeachNow. Thank you so much. And I will be back here next week. We're usually Tuesdays, but we're making a special exception for our friend Colin, who is the community leader at Startup Vancouver, and also our friend over at Reviver Sport Entertainment and the host of the Mod Golf podcast. So Colin Weston will be with us next Thursday at this time. So we've known him many years, so we've decided that we will work our schedule around and have a Thursday Instagram live instead of a Tuesday. But otherwise, I'll be back every Tuesday at this time. And so, what was that?
I said amazing.
Cool. Thank you so much, Alexandria. Again, really great to see you again. And really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.